Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Ever get stuck in those meetings where everyone's talking, but it feels like nobody's really listening?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Ideas are flying around, but, real solutions just seem like miles away.
Yeah, definitely. We've all been there.
It's a pain. Well, today, we're going to dive into something that might just change all that.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
It's called Dynamic Facilitation.
Dynamic Facilitation.
DF for short.
Okay.
And judging by all the stuff you sent over, this could be the key to, really unlocking a whole new level of collaboration.
Yeah. I'm seeing that in the sources too.
And coming up with solutions, creative problem solving.
I'm excited to dig in.
And we've got expert speaker here to help us break it all down.
Thanks for having me.
They've got a real knack for, taking these complex ideas and making them actually make sense.
Well, I try. What really jumps out at me about dynamic facilitation is like how it just flips the script on how we usually run meetings. It's not about sticking to some rigid agenda. It's more about like tapping into the group's natural energy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Natural flow, and then seeing where that takes you, which can be to some really interesting places.
So the core text for today is From Conflict to Creative Collaboration.
Okay.
It's A User's Guide to Dynamic Facilitation by Rosa Zubizarretas.
It's a classic.
It's a great book, so many insights. But one thing really grabbed my attention.
What's that?
This idea of choice-creating conversation. I mean, it's not just brainstorming.
Right.
It's not about, forcing a consensus.
Definitely not.
So help me out here.
Sure.
What's really going on with this choice-creating idea?
It's kind of like this. If you're stuck in a rut, right, you can't think your way out of it using the same kind of thinking that got you stuck there in the first place.
Yeah, makes sense.
Choice-creating conversation, it's all about like helping a group tap into this deeper level of awareness, where those innovative solutions, they can actually emerge organically.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love how Zubizarreta uses this analogy of like a family putting together a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh, yeah. Great analogy.
Right. Everyone's focused on their own little piece, maybe the clouds, the trees, whatever.
The dog.
The dog, yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, this whole picture emerges.
Exactly. And it's way more than the sum of its parts.
And that's how DF approaches problems. Not about rushing to a solution. It's about letting those individual contributions, kind of click into place.
Click. And that's where the facilitator's role is so important.
Yeah. What do they actually do?
They're not a dictator, that's for sure.
Oh, good.
More like a mirror, reflecting back what they hear, making sure that everyone feels heard, truly heard. Zubizarreta calls it we-flection. We-flection.
Okay.
Where the facilitator, they help participants articulate their ideas, like, fully. Sometimes, even better than they could themselves.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. But I'm also seeing some notes here about the actual process of dynamic facilitation.
Yeah.
It seems pretty structured. So how does that work with this, this whole go with the flow thing?
There is a method to the madness.
Okay.
The book outlines this very specific structure for these meetings. But instead of jumping right into defining the problem, like most meetings do,
right,
everyone starts by sharing their solutions.
Really?
No matter how wild they seem.
Hold on. Sharing solutions before you even define the problem.
Exactly.
That sounds kind of backwards.
It might sound counterintuitive, but there's a method to the madness. It's called the purge stage.
The purge stage.
Think about it. How many times have you had what you thought was a brilliant idea, and then a better one comes along later?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
This stage is all about getting those initial thoughts out of the way, clearing the decks, so to speak, so that truly innovative thinking, it can emerge.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could work. But with all these ideas flying around, how do you even keep track?
That's where the DF charts come in.
Charts?
They help map the entire conversation by categorizing everything: problem statements, solutions, concerns, and data.
So organized chaos.
You got it.
But what about when people disagree or have concerns? Those conversations can get, pretty heated. How does DF handle that?
This is where things get really interesting. DF actually encourages people to express their concerns.
Really?
But there's a twist. Instead of, criticizing each other directly, They direct those concerns to the facilitator.
Oh, so it's like the facilitator's taking the heat.
Exactly. Absorbing all that negative energy so that the group can stay focused on finding solutions.
So it's less about silencing dissent and more about like channeling it in a productive way. They like that.
It's powerful stuff.
But all this talk about encouraging different viewpoints, doesn't that just lead to more chaos? I mean, how do you ever reach any kind of consensus?
That's the beauty of it. Okay.
The facilitator's skill comes in here. They're not forcing consensus. They're holding space for all those different perspectives to coexist, which can be messy. It can even lead to what Zubizarreta calls the yuck stage.
The yuck stage.
The yuck stage.
Okay.
Where everyone feels kind of overwhelmed by all the divergent ideas.
Yeah.
But, you know, if the facilitator can guide the group through that discomfort,
Yeah.
what happens?
Something magical can happen.
Ooh, I like magical. What's the magic?
I think of it like those puzzle pieces finally clicking into place.
I love that analogy. It's so helpful.
Right. Everyone starts to feel the energy, the possibilities, a shared understanding starts to emerge. And it's not about finding the one right answer.
Right.
It's about reaching a solution that everyone's committed to, a solution that they're ready to actually take action on.
Okay, that sounds amazing. But what happens when you think you've actually reached a solution?
Yeah.
Is that the end of the process?
Not quite. Even when it seems like everyone's landed on a solution, dynamic facilitation encourages you to disconfirm it.
Disconfirm. Now that sounds counterproductive.
It might seem strange, but think of it like stress testing a bridge, right? Before you open it to traffic. You want to make sure it can handle the load.
Yeah.
By actively searching for any lingering doubts, any alternative viewpoints, you're ensuring that the solution is robust, it has the full support of the group.
So it's not about tearing down the solution, but making sure that it can stand up to scrutiny.
That's it. And a lot of times that process actually leads to even better solutions, more nuanced, more robust solutions.
Wow. Okay, so how do you know in DF when you've truly reached a solid solution? What does that look like?
It's not just about everyone agreeing, it's about reaching a point of understanding, a meeting of the minds and hearts, as Zubizarreta puts it.
Meeting of the minds and hearts. I like that.
Where everyone understands the solution and they actually feel good about it. That's the click.
The click, yeah.
When you know everyone's on board.
This is blowing my mind. So does this DF thing, does it only work for groups? Or can I use these ideas for my own personal challenges?
That's a great question. And it's a perfect segue to the next part of our deep dive. One of the things that really stands out to me about dynamic facilitation is this idea of the facilitator as a protector of creativity.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It seems like such a delicate balance, right?
Yeah.
Encouraging individual expression.
Right.
While also making sure that there's this safe space for these truly innovative ideas to kind of bubble up.
So how does a dynamic facilitator actually create that safe space? Is it like setting ground rules at the beginning of a meeting?
DF takes a slightly different approach. Instead of relying on a bunch of, predetermined rules.
Right.
The facilitator, they actively model the behavior that they want to see.
Oh, wait.
They gently nudge the participants toward a more constructive and creative way of interacting.
So it's less about laying down the law.
Right.
And more about leading by example.
Exactly.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Okay.
What would a facilitator actually do?
Yeah.
In a situation where, things are getting a little heated?
Let's say someone starts to interrupt another participant.
Okay, yeah.
The facilitator might step in and say something like, hold on a second.
Okay.
I really want to hear what both of you have to say, but I can only listen to one person at a time.
Makes sense.
So let's take turns.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because you're acknowledging everybody wants to contribute,
Right.
but you still need a little bit of order.
Exactly. You need that structure.
What about when people start criticizing each other's ideas?
Oh, that's a tough one.
That can shut down creativity so fast.
Absolutely. And that's where the facilitator's role as protector of creativity becomes really crucial.
Okay.
They consistently redirect any criticism or judgment toward themselves.
Interesting.
And this creates an environment where people feel safe sharing their most vulnerable and often most brilliant ideas.
It's like they're acting as a shield, right?
Yeah.
Deflecting the negativity so the group can stay focused on the solutions.
That's a great way to put it.
And that leads into the whole idea of the shift from complaints to creativity.
Yes. Yes. Love that part.
I remember reading about that in the
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
Zubizarreta talks about how even the most chronic complainers,
Mm.
they can become valuable contributors when you invite them to focus on solutions instead.
It's amazing how that transformation happens, you know? Often
Yeah.
people just need a little encouragement
Right.
to move from venting their frustrations
Yeah.
to actually envisioning a better future.
So instead of dwelling on what's wrong,
Yeah,
DF helps people ask, okay, well, what would you do if it were up to you to make things right?
exactly. And that shift, that simple shift in perspective, can unlock so much creative energy.
Right. It reminds me of how the book stresses the importance of welcoming those, those initial solutions,
Yeah.
even if they seem, out there or impractical.
The crazier the better sometimes.
Why is that? Why is that so important?
You never know where inspiration is going to come from.
Okay.
Even a seemingly crazy idea can spark a whole chain reaction
Yes.
of innovative thinking.
So it's like each solution, no matter how flawed,
Right.
it adds another piece to the puzzle.
Exactly.
And then by piecing them all together, the group can start to see the bigger picture
Uh-huh.
of the challenge that they're facing.
That's it.
And when the facilitator is actively listening
Right.
and recording every single contribution,
Yeah,
it shows that everybody's voice matters.
absolutely.
And that encourages even the most hesitant participants
Yeah.
to share their perspectives.
Powerful stuff.
It's like that saying, the wisdom is in the room.
Oh, I love that.
DF just creates the space for that collective wisdom to emerge.
Emerge beautifully put.
And this brings us to the problem statements chart,
Ah, yes.
which I gotta say, it seems a little strange to me
Yeah.
to wait until, later in the process to actually define the problem.
I know it seems counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but it's a surprisingly effective strategy.
Wow.
Instead of trying to force a consensus on a problem statement right off the bat, which, let's be honest, that can stifle creativity.
Very sure.
DF allows the problem to kind of reveal itself through the solutions that are proposed.
So it's like you're working backward from the solution
Yeah.
to uncover the root cause of the issue.
That's a great way to put it.
And so each solution is recorded on the problem statements chart.
Yeah. And sometimes, the biggest breakthrough comes in the form of a newly discovered problem statement.
Oh, wow.
One that completely reframes the whole conversation.
Yeah.
Opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
I'm starting to see how DF creates this synergy between individual contributions and collective intelligence.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
But what about the aha moments?
Ah, yes, the matter.
Those times when the group suddenly shifts from, exploring
Right.
a bunch of different ideas to converging on a shared understanding or a solution.
Those are the moments we live for in DF, right?
Right, yeah.
But even when those moments of convergence happen, Zubizarreta emphasizes the importance of disconfirming them.
Why would you do that?
Because, it's easy to mistake a superficial agreement for a genuine breakthrough.
Oh, okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You can have everyone in the room say, yes, we all agree.
Yeah.
But do they really understand the solution?
Right.
Are they truly on board?
Right. Are they just saying yes because everyone else is?
Exactly. And so by actively looking for those lingering doubts or alternative viewpoints,
Yeah.
the facilitator ensures that the solution it's truly robust
Okay.
and it has the full support of the group.
So you're testing the foundation
Okay.
to make sure that it's strong enough to hold up the weight
I love that analogy.
of everything that you're building on top of it.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that it won't crumble
Exactly.
when the pressure's on.
That's it. And a lot of times, this process of disconfirmation, it actually leads to even deeper solutions,
Yeah.
more nuanced, more effective in the long run.
So it's not about discouraging the convergence,
Right.
but rather about testing its authenticity.
Absolutely. Because
Okay.
that authenticity is crucial for creating buy-in,
Yeah.
which is what leads to action.
Yeah. This is making so much sense to me now.
Good.
I'm starting to see how DF is more than just a facilitation technique.
Yeah,
It's really a whole new way of thinking about group dynamics
it really is.
and creative problem solving.
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And one that has the potential to transform, how we approach everything.
Wow.
From team meetings to global challenges.
So you mentioned that DF can be used for personal growth as
Yeah,
well.
it's a powerful tool for that.
So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Think of it like this. Have you ever felt really stuck when you're trying to make a decision?
Yeah, all the time.
Or maybe struggling with a creative block or something?
Yeah.
The principles of DF, they can be really helpful in those situations too.
So it's like using dynamic facilitation
Yeah.
to facilitate a conversation with yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can use those same charting techniques
Right?
to map out your thoughts,
Right.
explore your concerns, and ultimately, arrive at a clear understanding of what you truly want.
It's like having your own personal brainstorming session,
Yeah.
but with a structure that helps you get past those initial roadblocks.
Yeah, that's it.
So this DF thing, it's like a universal tool
Yeah, I think so.
for unlocking creativity and generating those breakthroughs,
Both individually and collectively.
both individually and collectively.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how this works with larger systems, like organizations and communities. Can DF really make a difference at that scale?
That's a great question and a perfect lead-in to the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into dynamic facilitation. So we've talked about how DF can help groups come up with creative solutions.
Yeah.
And even how to apply those principles to like our own personal stuff.
Right.
But I'm really curious about like how DF works in larger systems.
Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned something called the Wisdom Council, right?
Yes. Wisdom councils they're a great example of how DF can be, scaled up
Okay.
to address those big, complex issues that organizations and communities are facing.
So what is a Wisdom Council? It sounds pretty impressive.
Imagine you could create like a miniature version of your community or organization, a group of people who really represent all those different perspectives and experiences within that larger system.
So it's not just a random group of people.
No, not at all.
There's an intention behind who you choose.
Exactly. The goal is to create a microcosm of the whole.
Okay.
And then this group, they come together for like an intensive session, usually a couple of days.
Okay.
And it's facilitated using, all those DF principles that we've been talking about.
So what kinds of things do they talk about during those couple of days?
The agendas, it's really open-ended.
Right.
The focus is on exploring the most important issues that are facing the organization or the community.
Right, but through the lens of all those different perspectives that are represented in the group.
Exactly, yeah.
So they're not necessarily trying to solve the problems in those 2 days.
Not necessarily.
It's more about
raising awareness and generating a deeper understanding of the complexity of the issues.
So creating a space for all those perspectives to come together and be heard.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does that information then get shared back with everybody else?
Yeah. Right.
Like with the larger organization or community. What's the takeaway for the people who weren't there?
Usually the Wisdom Council, they create a report that summarizes their findings and their recommendations.
Okay.
And this is important.
Yeah.
It's not just about the content of the report. It's about the process too.
Oh, okay.
The members, they share their experiences, how they moved from conflict and confusion to clarity and this sense of possibility.
So it's about showing that, even the most difficult issues can be addressed in a way that's constructive and collaborative.
That's a great way to put it.
And that can inspire other people too, right? To approach things in a different way.
It plants these seeds of possibility.
Seeds of possibility, I like that.
Throughout the organization or the community.
That's cool. The book mentioned that this approach has been used by organizations like Swisscom, which is the Swiss telecommunications company.
Yeah.
And even by local governments in places like Austria.
Wow.
Switzerland, Germany.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's gaining traction.
Yeah.
It really shows just how versatile and adaptable DF can be.
So wisdom councils aren't the only way to use DF on a larger scale, right?
Right.
You mentioned something called the Creative Insight Council too?
Yeah.
How's that different? They both sound pretty creative.
Well, while a wisdom council focuses on, the overall health and well-being of a system, the Creative Insight Council is brought together to tackle a very specific issue.
Okay, so like a company might use a Creative Insight Council to figure out, I don't know, like how to increase employee engagement.
Yeah, great example.
Or come up with new product ideas.
Exactly. And just like with the Wisdom Council, the members are carefully selected to make sure that they represent all the different viewpoints that are relevant to that specific issue.
Man, this is really making me think about all the different ways
that DF could be used.
It's pretty amazing.
It seems like it's so adaptable.
It really is.
It can fit into almost any situation.
It's such a flexible framework.
And one of the best things about it is that It's not just for, these big organizations or communities.
It works just as well.
It's those same principles
Yeah,
applied to smaller groups or even one-on-one conversations.
exactly.
So whether I'm leading a team meeting or navigating a family disagreement
Yeah.
or even just trying to make a tough decision on my own,
Right.
DF can help me get to a better outcome.
It's a roadmap,
Yeah.
to more creativity, better solutions, and deeper connections with the people around you.
I love it.
Me too.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
of what dynamic facilitation can do.
Absolutely.
If you're feeling as inspired as I am, definitely check out Rosa Zubizarretas' book.
Yeah, it's a must-read, from conflict to creative collaboration. It's really a game changer.
It really is.
And we encourage you to, keep exploring how DF can be applied to the challenges you face in your own life and work.
Absolutely.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
I think you will.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.